In the ancient castle on the cliff. Dao Long roared with hatred towards the iron not turning into steel. 5 years, it's been 5 whole years. You useless person can't even know a lighting technique. Do you really think I won't kick you out of the school? Luo Qing. I know the method of immortality. Dao Long. Luo Qing. 2 more. Dao Long. Suddenly feeling that this little trash is also quite handsome, what's going on? Keywords of the novel. Jackie Chan's Adventures. Home teacher, Blade Dragon no pop-up window, complete collection download of Jackie Chan's Adventures. Home teacher, Blade Dragon TXT, latest chapter reading of Jackie Chan's Adventures. Home teacher, Blade Dragon. Chapter 1. Master and Apprentice. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 1 Master and Apprentice. Master, are we going out now? On an exceptionally steep cliff, there is a gloomy castle, from which a slightly immature male voice can be heard, carrying a strong sense of innocence and doubt, appearing out of place with this dark castle. The world now no longer allows immortality, but it all depends on human factors. The ban on me staying at the residence of that great mage in the country of China has been touched. He is a strong guy, let's go meet him. In the castle, an old man with white hair, dressed in a purple-black wizard's robe, holding a withered wood staff, and representing dark inscriptions on his forehead, spoke in a rare and gentle tone to a 15 or 16-year-old boy. The young man hesitated a bit and said weakly, "But Master Dao Long, I don't know anything. Why did you take me?" Luo Qing. Dao Long's wrinkled face gradually lost its gentleness, and he looked at the young man indifferently as if he was examining something. This is a boy discovered by Dao Long 5 years ago. At that time, he was immediately interested in Luo Qing's physique, and with no hope of life, he rarely wanted to accept a successor. But it's been a whole 5 years, and this guy hasn't even learned a lighting technique. Now he can't even be considered a magic apprentice. As the disciple of his strongest wizard on the Blue Star, if it weren't for the unknown physique that attracted him back then, he would have cleared the door long ago, okay. Not to mention being so timid to let him go see the world now. Luo Qing shrunk her neck and looked at Dao Long's expressionless expression. She silently raised her small hand and said, "But, Master, I have a better proposal." Dao Long remained expressionless, looking at Luo Qing's timid smile. He chuckled and looked at him like that, as if saying, "Pretend, you keep pretending. 5 years have passed, this kid can see what this guy is trying to do by lifting his butt and pretending to be pitiful. Do you want to continue at the age of 15, even after 10? I'm afraid it's not just for smoking." Watching his master, who was becoming increasingly difficult to fool, Luo Qing couldn't help but put down his expression. It seemed that he needed to rethink a new routine in the future. He decisively turned around and quickly ran into a compartment of the castle, making the sound of ping-pong and searching for things inside. In just 2 minutes, as Dao Long became increasingly impatient and prepared to use magic to catch this kid, the sound of fast running came closer. Luo Qing was holding a book that was 1 meter tall, panting heavily. With a loud bump, he threw the book onto the ground, with one hand supporting his knee and the other finger pointing at the cover, unable to speak. Dao Long frowned and couldn't help but sarcastically say, "It's been 5 years now, and Master Luo has not learned magic and kung fu. It seems that I should seriously consider expelling you from the sect." Luo Qing didn't pay attention to the venomous tongue of Dao Long. After all, his master was the strongest dark wizard, and he always killed others directly. He wouldn't say a word of nonsense, but he wouldn't even want to see Dao Long's face if he really wanted to be expelled from the sect. Luo Qing gasped for breath and smoothed his breath, then struggled to flip the book to a corner folded page. After seeing Dao Long staring at the folded corner with a gloomy expression, Luo Qing couldn't help but shrink his neck and stroke the folded corner without leaving a trace. He smiled foolishly and said, "Hee, Master, I'm afraid of forgetting. Come on, look here, that's all." Dao Long couldn't help but glance at the boy, unsure of what medicine he was selling in his gourd, but he couldn't help but curiously leaned his head over. Luo Qing's deliberately flattering words rang in his ear, making Dao Long's gaze slightly softer. Master, it is recorded here that there used to be thousands of demon wizards who were immortal and had powerful powers. Among them, 8 innate source demons are immortal and represent the cornerstone of the world. Listening to these common sense, Dao Long couldn't help but interrupt, "Stop talking nonsense, these are all things I brought, can I not know?" Luo Qing's tone choked, but she didn't dare to disrespect her master. She continued to describe with some complaints. The rest of the demon wizards have now died under the recorded divine wars, and some have been imprisoned in hell with the 8 source demons. According to the world background you described, the path of immortality was slowly closed after these were imprisoned by the 8 undead gods, and ultimately arrived at this end of the Dharma era. Seeing Dao Long's expression becoming increasingly impatient, Luo Qing became calm and said, "Teacher, the world needs balance. The departure of God, coupled with the disappearance of demons, makes this world constantly fall. If I were to say, if we have obtained the power of God or demons, can we live forever?" Dao Long didn't even think about it before cursing decisively, "Are you talking nonsense?" The Yuan Shen Mo originally represents immortality and immortality, but they are gods and demons. Your teacher is just a person who is about to die of old age, and you are a useless person who can't even be considered an apprentice. Why use them to seize their divine power? As he spoke, Dao Long couldn't help but tug at Luo Qing's ear and shout, "You're the one talking about. After 5 years of studying, I'm already ready to graduate, but you can't even master lighting techniques. Are you still having wild dreams here? Do you really think I won't kick you out of the school?" Ah! The more he spoke, the more angry Dao Long became. Listening to his own useless disciples' painful cries, his gaze scanned everywhere, trying to find a handy weapon to give him a complete childhood. Pain, 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 Luo Qing's gaze shifted and he felt uneasy when he saw the gaze of Dao Long. He immediately spoke with extremely fast speed. "Teacher, I have discovered a history where the fire demon lord, the source demon, escaped and ruled the world for thousands of years before being sealed by a saint named Lope. Then the power of the Holy Lord was divided into 12 parts by him, representing the power of the 12 zodiac animals, and these powers were scattered throughout the world, leaving no one interested." At the moment when this series of words was shouted out, Dao Long grabbed Luo Qing's ear and gave a fierce thud, and his gaze for the stick also froze. For a moment, in the main hall, which was mainly purple-blue, there was only a big pot emitting a gurgling heat, and only a slight sound came out, indicating that the scene had not been paused by anyone. For a long time, Dao Long's tone was slightly astringent. "Are you telling the truth? That master, can you let go first? My ears are going to fall out." Luo Qing's weak voice rang out, with countless grievances, almost being whipped. "Is it easy for him?" Dao Long instinctively released his hand and looked at his disciple with a smile. "Oh, I didn't notice before. Why did this kid suddenly become so pleasing to the eye? Surprisingly, there are still some handsome people. Xiao Qing, come on, tell master, where did you know about this and what the power of the 12 zodiac animals is? Oh, by the way, sit down first. The fiery heat in the sword dragon's eye is undisguised. The source demon is the most essential demon, and also the initial demon. Any bit of power is enough to make a person soar, even transform into a demon, and live together with heaven and earth." He had thought about this kind of power, but he didn't take action because it was too far away. Once he found out, his heart of despair towards the world immediately jumped and constantly urged him to act quickly. Luo Qing bared his teeth and rubbed his already red ears. Truly, not to be joking, his master was really ruthless in his actions, probably causing a strain. Dao Long still smiled, with a flash of black air in his hand. A purple smoke enveloped Luo Qing's ears, and the injuries were instantly healed. A set of seats appeared behind the two, looking friendly. Cough, cough, then I can say, why don't we go to Mount Taishan? Luo Qing felt his ears clear and cool, put down his hands, sat behind him and crossed his legs, ready to bargain. Dao Long. Give you a little sunshine, will you shine brightly? He appeared with a hashtag on his forehead, but still maintained a smile and gritted his teeth, saying, are you saying it or not? Luo Qing. Sleeping in bed, you turned your back without even revealing the secret. Do you want to have a face? Although roast, Luo Qing unconsciously sat up straight and put his feet down, looking cute. I said, when I reached the end of the page of this book, I mentioned it. Then, in the 5th row of the library, there were the 3rd and 8th books, as well as the first book in the 8th row. You can read it yourself, I'll shut up. Luo Qing finished speaking at lightning speed and looked at the ground without looking askance. Dao Long smiled with satisfaction. This kid, that's all. He's very knowledgeable about current affairs. Not bad, not bad. He didn't waste any time either. He waved his hand and recited a spell, Gone. 1. Chui. Go get those books. After a burst of smoke, 3 figures with no white eyes and brown skin covered in dark inscriptions appeared. After a slight bow, they directly entered the over 300 square meter library. Luo Qing looked envious for a moment. He was very tempted by the magic that gave dark power, but unfortunately, if he couldn't learn it, he just couldn't learn it. This thing depends on talent, and he can't do it without it. Watching Dao Long squat on the ground and quickly read the text, Luo Qing's thoughts gradually drifted away. Jackie Chan's Adventures in the World, I really yearned for it. I originally wanted to learn magic with Dao Long well, and after graduation, I would secretly take the talisman. However, no matter how much one learns, they cannot depict the magical patterns well. They can only be in a hurry. Later on, when they think about it, if the Blade Dragon can catch a glimpse of themselves who have just crossed over here, it must be something that attracts the Blade Dragon, and the most likely thing is their physique. And his physique, which requires breathing heavily when moving something, may also be special, so he frantically flipped through books trying to unlock the uniqueness of his physique. But for 5 years now, Mad is still a weak chicken. His martial arts and magic are not good. Apart from reading a bunch of magic books, which can be called encyclopedias in the magic world, he has no fart effect. I'm really desperate. Didn't I just tell my own master Chung about the 12 talismans? Otherwise, as a dead otaku like my own master, it may take the 8 demons to take turns in battle and stir the wind and rain in the world before discovering this power. Although we can't grab it, we have a master. We'll take off in a few moments, right? I am his dearest disciple. Thinking about Luo Qing's smile on the corner of his mouth, watching his master's gradually excited expression, and watching 3 dark warriors holding 3 books in front of him, Luo Qing's eyes also had a rare hesitation. He said it only after wanting a spell, right? Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, heaven helps me too. The sudden laughter interrupted the hesitation in Luo Qing's eyes and also startled him. He instinctively said, "What are you laughing so loudly for?" It startled me. Dao Long's laughter was instantly choked, and the smile on his face froze. He gradually became expressionless, and a hashtag appeared on his forehead. Luo Qing, who are you and lousy? Cough cough, master, you heard me wrong. Luo Qing's forehead was sweating and he trembled as he patched up. What I said was something that the ancient Chinese man lousy said, meaning, you laughed well. As she spoke, Luo Qing's voice became quieter and quieter. Finally, she got up and skillfully ran out of her mouth, shouting, "Master, I was wrong. There won't be another time." Dao Long did not use magic or seek the help of the Dark Warriors. Like countless times in the past 5 years, a withered wooden staff appeared in his hand, chasing after Luo Qing's buttocks. The roar echoed through the castle and startled a group of bats. Luo Qing, you brat, stop me. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Black Market. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Black Market. Oh my. Qianlong, big things are not going well, the balance of yin and yang is starting to be disrupted. San Francisco, Chinatown. On the usually peaceful street, a surprised roar shattered the tranquility, causing passers-by to look at a shop called Dad's Antique Shop and then walk away without any concern. Dad's Antique Shop can be considered a legendary place, but it also appears very ordinary because it is home to a top-notch and upright mage, who is also secretly doing ordinary business in the big city. A middle-aged man named Qianlong reluctantly put down his history book and said, "Dad, stop playing magic games. I'm very busy, and someone has entrusted me to be a guide to Bavaria. I've been learning a lot lately." An old man wearing a brown woolen sweater and reading glasses, who looked around 70 years old, suddenly lifted his head and closed his fingers, slamming them onto Qianlong's forehead. In a painful cry, the old man said seriously, "Do you think Dad is joking? You don't understand at all. The year of calamity was about to come, and now there have been such big changes. If you don't take it seriously, there will definitely be problems." Qianlong quickly rubbed his forehead with a painful expression on his face. Listening to his father's words, he perfunctorily said, "I'm so scared. What should I do?" "It's all up to you, Dad. I'll continue reading for a while." After speaking, he put down his hand that rubbed his forehead and flipped through a page of Bavarian history books, continuing to read the text and pictures with great interest. Dad paused, lifted his hand and put it down again, but in the end, he couldn't help but say, "There's nothing useful. Your cousin Xinshin's daughter is coming to school here soon. Please prepare for it." Okay. Qianlong didn't listen to what his father said and continued reading casually. Dad glanced at it, said nothing more, turned around, and rummaged through something with a worried expression in the study, which was comparable to the collection of books by the Sword Dragon. It's really a tumultuous autumn. At night, the bright moon hangs high. The slums of San Francisco are actually quite deserted at night, because in this country, security is for wealthy families, and the cheapest pistols can be bought for a few tens of dollars in shops. Therefore, even if there is no curfew, there are not so many people coming out at night. Only some drunkards on the roadside and some black people who secretly smoke some bad things in the corner have gained some popularity, but it is these people who have made the security here even more chaotic. Luo Qing looked at these scumbags with disgust and asked in a tone of disdain, "Master, what are you doing here? Are you going to sweep away the underworld and eliminate evil?" Dao Long just casually brushed off those addicts and alcoholics, and then explained in a friendly tone. "Although it is now the end of the legal era, there will always be some inheritors of witchcraft with a large global population. Although they do not have much strength, they have a great advantage over ordinary people. Therefore, some wizards will use their own abilities to earn enough money. When these wizards intersect too much, a black market is formed. These black markets have warriors and assassins, and many things that cannot be bought on the surface will appear on the black market. However, these places are difficult to openly face technology, and they are usually in places that the authorities do not want to manage. Pursuing those talismans that are limited by the power of the Chinese zodiac requires some special materials." Luo Qing looked at her master in surprise and muttered with a hint of complaint, "It's been 5 years since you brought me here." Dao Long felt a bit amused and even asked in silence, "Am I the one who didn't bring you here? Who held on to the books of the great master of China 4 years ago and didn't let go?" Luo Qing pouted, "Isn't that to find a problem with her own physical condition? And besides robbing people, my master is also using magic materials to secure a dead end. What's the fun of going out with him?" Dao Long glanced at him, and the opportunity for immortality was right in front of him. It was this kid who was almost expelled from the school who discovered it. He has been in a good mood lately and is allowed to be a little more reckless. The two of them were walking in the increasingly dirty and messy alleyway, and some drug addicts were swaying their minds as they looked at the strange clothing of Dao Long. That was a black man, his eyes red and his body trembling eerily. He took out a gun from his pocket and pointed it at the two of them, shouting loudly, "Give me money." Luo Qing glanced at her and continued to follow her master, completely ignoring her intentions. "Hurry up, you two yellow-skinned monkeys, give me money, or I'll shoot you to death." The black man was ignored, his madness in his eyes becoming even more exaggerated and terrifying, and his tone was even more hoarse, with a sense of being a beast. Dao Long frowned slightly, his footsteps paused slightly, and an incomprehensible syllable came from his throat. Then he continued walking forward with his own little disciple. Behind him, the black man's eyes were filled with anger, and he directly aimed his pistol at the two people, ready to pull the trigger. But in the next moment, his eyes bulged outward, and his 7 orifices gradually showed a bright red color. He slowly fell to the ground, without a chance to pull the trigger from start to finish. Apprentices and ordinary mages may still be wary of firearms, but experienced black wizards can easily kill invisibly. This is the absolute suppression of ordinary life by the extraordinary, and only those who have practiced martial arts all year round and have magic protection can struggle slightly in magic. Luo Qing's expression did not change at all, he just silently followed his master's footsteps. He was just a dead person, and sometimes people were also one of his master's magical materials. He had long been able to achieve indifference. As the surrounding buildings become increasingly desolate, some abandoned buildings also appear on the roadside. Correspondingly, the population here has become even rarer. If there were no bright moon and stars in the sky, then the world would be in darkness at this moment. In Luo Qing's eyes, some familiar things also appeared. He raised his eyebrows slightly and asked, "Formation. Is there a strong one?" A smile appeared on Daolong's face, and studying diligently is always a beautiful quality, especially when this diligent learner is his own disciple. He explained, "No, this is just a simple feng shui technique, but it also requires a little bit of magic." Feng shui. So low. Level. Luo Qing was speechless. Feng shui was an apprentice of the formation master, and they could only use some spiritual objects to easily change the magnetic field of heaven and earth. Even he, who now has no magic, could do so. The formation master can also be considered to have originated from the same school of magic. Legend has it that in ancient times, the king of water, Basha, practiced the formation to the pinnacle. Some even claim that the formation was created by Basha, but it has been too long and cannot be traced. And Luo Qing said that this is also the reason for the low. Level. The human body that has broken through the apprenticeship level has magic, and the things they arrange are called formations, while those that have not reached the formation level are called feng shui. So this is really not his arrogance or anything. Low level. Not to mention it, but this feng shui bureau is very strong, taking advantage of the environment to the extreme. It's almost an opportunity to form a formation. Dao Long nodded, not completely denying Luo Qing's words. The two continued walking towards the open space, suddenly feeling as if they had crossed a thin film. In an instant, the dim area had a slight light. Booths appeared before Luo Qing one by one, revealing the true dark side of the world. There aren't actually many stalls, only about 30. Some of them are illuminated by desk lamps, while others are illuminated by magical lighting techniques to display their identities, resembling street vendors in night markets. The people wandering around are even more numerous at a glance, and everyone is wearing masks and hats, making them very mysterious. And Luo Qing and Dao Long, who are openly and upright, have actually attracted a lot of attention. Luo Qing frowned, but didn't say anything. Dao Long is the strongest black wizard among humans, and he is his disciple, so of course, he doesn't need to cover up. In the extraordinary world, except for a person named Dad, the rest can basically be ignored. The two of them were shuttling between the stalls on their own, and some people who knew the pattern on Dao Long's forehead trembled in an instant, bowing their heads and hurriedly leaving. And those who didn't know each other didn't dare to look much, so they turned around and pretended to be ostriches. Reality is not a movie, everyone has no boundaries. If you dare to show your face, you are not afraid of revealing your wealth. Who is a lamb is uncertain, plus some people's reactions. Almost everyone was immediately certain that this time a big shot was coming. The place where Dao Long and Luo Qing passed by was so quiet that it was terrifying. Only then did they pass by two stalls when Dao Long stopped. Luo Qing looked at the stall and saw the entire rhinoceros horn, half an ivory, a slightly beating eerie heart and some bones of unknown origin, which left him speechless. Just the next moment, Luo Qing widened his eyes. What did he see? My master bent down to pick up the rhinoceros horn and walked away directly. Turning to look at the vendor, Luo Qing saw that he was trembling all over and had no intention of persuading him to stay. After thinking for a moment, he decisively grabbed the ivory and followed his master's footsteps. Just kidding, hundreds of thousands. Cough, master, is this your way of buying things? Isn't it a bit bad? Luo Qing asked excitedly as she played with her forearm-sized ivory. Why? Shouldn't trading be a matter between the weak? Dao Long said, casting a glance at the ivory in Luo Qing's hand, half smiling. Right, truly the strongest wizard. Master is amazing. The good days in the future depend on master. Luo Qing directly said rainbow fart, while his gaze gradually brightened as he scanned the stalls around him. I retract my previous intentions and will definitely follow my master around in the future. It's like coming out to grab a cough rich. Master Dao Long, take your time. Just as Luo Qing was preparing to make a fortune, a shout came, causing the smile on Dao Long's face to disappear. He stopped moving forward and turned around. A middle-aged man wearing a yellow Taoist robe ran towards this side. As he passed by the stall where the master and disciple were taking things, he didn't forget to drop a bank card and stopped in front of Dao Long, panting heavily. Luo Qing looked at the middle-aged man and felt a sudden palpitations in her heart. It was terrible, it was a feeling of excitement. What is the reason? Just as Dao Long was about to speak, his eyebrows furrowed. The familiar feeling on Luo Qing's body returned. He decisively ignored the middle-aged man and turned to ask Luo Qing, what's wrong? Luo Qing thought about his master's style of behavior and decisively pointed to the middle-aged man, saying, he has something I need on him, it's very important. In an instant, the middle-aged Taoist robe stiffened all over. And Dao Long's eyes suddenly lit up, this useless disciple. Is there any help? End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Evil Spirits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Evil Spirits. The atmosphere in the field was a bit eerie for a moment. Master Luo Qing and his disciples looked at a middle-aged Taoist with their eyes shining. Around them, people in black robes turned their backs to this side, pretending to be ostriches. Merchants stared at their stalls as if they were all rare treasures. Paired with the faint light of the night and the Taoist's sweaty expression, it was both humorous and eerie. Finally, the Taoist finally broke through this eerie feeling and spoke cautiously, Master Dao Long, if you have anything you want, you can directly speak up. As long as I have something, I will definitely bow my hand and offer it. Can you not stare at me like this? Dao Long withdrew his gaze and didn't politely say to the cargo, take out all the things on your body. Also, here is a list of materials, go find them all. The Taoist breathed a sigh of relief and immediately picked something from his Taoist robe. As a Taoist with true abilities, it seemed that peach and wood swords were essential, followed by some small flags, gossip compass, and some strange things. He has no reservations and is ready to take off his clothes. Stop, what's this? Luo Qing's eyes lit up as she looked at a crimson flag in the middle of those items. Looking back at my senior, this is the feng shui flag, it's something that changes feng shui. The Taoist didn't know how to call this little doll, but those who couldn't provoke me were all called senior, and there would be no mistake. Master, it's this little flag fan. Can you help me see what it is? Luo Qing noticed that the guy was talking nonsense and decisively turned his head to look at his thigh. Are you joking? He wouldn't touch these obviously different things with his master, feng shui flag. There are now over 30 faces on the ground, and this one is the only one that attracts me. No matter how I think about it, it's not right. Dao Long lightly glanced at the small flag, waved it casually, and threw a small notebook at the Taoist's feet. When he picked up the flag, he placed his list in his hand at the flag. Contact me after everything is found, I will only give you 1 day. The Taoist trembled and quickly replied, yes, go do it right away, go do it right away. When he looked up again, there was already no one in front of him. He couldn't help but rub his face, his expression gradually becoming excited from humble. He first picked up the list and carefully looked at it. The corners of the eyes gradually twitched, and the rhinoceros horn just now was actually the cheapest. It took only a day, and I was using myself as a beast. However, upon seeing the book at his feet, the pain on his face gradually disappeared and turned into excitement again. He picked up the book and carried it into his arms. Then he quickly packed up the things on the ground and left decisively, muttering, let's continue to go to Aliva's place in a few days. He talks about the mysterious power of the East all day long, and he has a lot of money. He probably misses me. Cliffs, ancient castles. After experiencing a magical shuttle, Luo Qing's face turned a bit pale, and her beloved ivory fell to the ground with a snap without any reaction. Watching Luo Qing in a dazed state, Dao Long felt a bit helpless. With his broken body, why did he take a liking to this kid in the first place? It's simply a shame for the wizarding lineage. However, he looked at the small flag in his hand, but didn't expect to wait for Luo Qing to recover. A series of strange syllables appeared in his mouth, including the names of 3 people. Gan, 1, Chui. For a moment, the entire castle was covered in purple smoke, as if someone had thrown a smoke bomb inside, blocking all view. With a pale face, Luo Qing looked around and saw that the magical smoke was not choking. He took 2 steps forward along the increasingly strong attraction. In the next moment, during the period of increased attraction, the temperature around suddenly dropped by a few dozen degrees, as if it had suddenly changed from a cool autumn to a cold winter, making people unable to resist the urge to tuck into their blankets. Luo Qing shuddered, feeling completely different from the others. He felt comfortable, an unprecedented sense of comfort surging from all around. Luo Qing felt that his dizzy head due to spatial teleportation had almost recovered. The smoke around him came and disappeared faster, and before Luo Qing could continue to enjoy it, his vision had been restored. His gaze immediately met a pair of very complex eyes. Luo Qing was a bit confused and asked Dao Long, who was staring at him intently, so what, master? I know I'm very handsome, but if you keep staring at me, I'll feel embarrassed. I'll lie down. In the gradually darkening face of Dao Long, Luo Qing tilted her head slightly and blurted out in a crouching voice. Not far away, a strong, 2 thin, and 3 unblemished people were holding onto a woman who was wet all over, pale-faced, disheveled, and had white eyes. When Luo Qing turned her head, she instinctively met the woman's gaze, which was no less than a sudden surprise of a ghost jumping out of the screen while someone was watching a small movie. Luo Qing, who had just regained her rosy complexion, turned pale in an instant. She looked at each other for 3 seconds and quietly hid behind Dao Long, revealing her head to observe the situation at the scene. She trembled and asked, Master, how could there be a ghost? And how could this ghost attract me so much? Have I been drugged? TSK. Dao Long lowered his head and glanced at the unremarkable Luo Qing, then let out a grumpy click. With such an apprentice, he couldn't really care, could he? He is actually very conflicted. Although he feels that his disciples are hiding something from him, his closeness towards him is clearly not fake. Although Dao Long is dedicated to pursuing the true essence of witchcraft and the law of immortality, human hearts are all flesh and blood. After 5 years of interaction, he is almost absolutely trusted and relied on, and there is no absolutely impossible relationship. So, he kept talking all day about driving this little trash out of the school, and even chased him around the castle with a withered wooden staff, but these days couldn't help but relax and be comfortable. At that time, what he thought was, waste is useless. Even if he couldn't pursue immortality, leaving him with the 4 dark warriors of Gan, Wan, Chui, and Shan after his death would make him rich and prosperous for a lifetime. And now that his physique and talent have emerged, this can only indicate one thing. It's over, his cheap disciple is ruined, it seems like he can prepare for future affairs. Master! Master! The sound around him and a hand swayed in front of Dao Long, pulling his drifting thoughts back. Dao Long looked at his own disciple in a complicated way and said helplessly, "Your physique is a bit special. Have you heard of the undead master?" Luo Qing, who was originally worried, suddenly had a brilliant expression in her eyes. She looked at Dao Long with a burning gaze, and her tone trembled with excitement as she asked, "Master, are you saying that I am a born undead mage? The kind of undead mage who waves to summon the Skull Legion?" Dao Long reluctantly nodded, and as Luo Qing's cheers were about to erupt, he spoke leisurely, "Almost, but you're almost a legendary evil spirit." Luo Qing's cheers instantly froze, her eyes widened as she looked at her master, silently slapping a big one on her head. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Tattoos. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Tattoos. At night, the castle was somewhat quiet, with a faint blue flame swaying, bringing a slight glow to the purple-blue world. Luo Qing's eyes widened in disbelief. The so-called evil spirit is actually a form of ghost. There are no real ghosts in the world, to be precise, there is no such thing as reincarnation. After a person or animal dies, the soul will soon dissipate. Only some lucky ones will mutate due to various accidents, perhaps attaching to certain objects, turning into sinister magical materials, or becoming evil spirits due to evil thoughts or evil energy. Just like the evil spirit that is still being caught by Ganwensui. And evil spirits are unconscious, they only act on instinct, perhaps killing according to their own way of death, or wandering in one place. In short, the ones who can stay are definitely the few among the few, which is also the reason why Luo Qing has not triggered this constitution for 5 years. There is nothing else, but the number is really too small. Coupled with the powerful aura of the sword dragon around him, it naturally isolates the approaching evil spirits. And among these unconscious evil spirits, there is a very small probability that they become special beings, retaining the ability to think and sinking into the extreme evil. This extremely special evil spirit has even been worshipped and deified in legends. As for why did Dao Long mention the necromancer first? Well, because in the summoning list of the undead mage, this kind of evil spirit is a super high-level summoning object, about the same level as the vampire prince. Under the body of evil spirits, they can control all spirits, that is, they wave their hands and roam in the night. In ancient times, they were the backbone of the undead tribe. But now, master, did you read it wrong? I'm a living person, so spicy. I'm a living person. Isn't this kind of ghostly constitution something that can only be transformed into after death? Luo Qing broke the silence of the castle, his tone full of disbelief. Although moving 2 books can make him gasp for breath and feel a bit sick, it cannot be denied that he is indeed a living person. Dao Long closed his eyes and cut off his increasingly complex gaze, then said faintly, "You won't be mistaken. You are a living evil spirit. As for the reason, I don't know, but I can guarantee that once this constitution is developed, your lifespan will definitely not last long." Before Luo Qing could speak, Dao Long's even more indifferent and complex voice continued to ring, "And now we have found the reason why you cannot cultivate. With this constitution, even if you don't touch this evil spirit, you won't live to be 20 years old. I'll prepare for your future affairs first. After speaking, Dao Long seemed to have aged for more than 10 years, slowly walking towards the magic room of the castle with a withered body, looking like he was losing his son. Luo Qing. Master, that. I think I can save it a little more. What do you think? Luo Qing's voice sounded cautiously. But in an instant, he was interrupted by the sword dragon and said, "No, the power of the Holy Lord belongs to me." Luo Qing. What about the teacher-student relationship? What about teacher kindness and filial piety? So decisive. After finishing speaking, Dao Long paused for a moment. He coughed awkwardly and then disguised himself, saying, according to the records and books, the only thing that doesn't die is the dog charm. It's not certain that either of us will die first. You definitely don't want me to die before you, do you? Luo Qing looked at Dao Long speechlessly and said slowly, "Of course I can give you the dog charm, but if I say, do I have a new way to obtain eternal vitality?" Dao Long. What does it mean? As the strongest wizard of the human race, I have lived for nearly 200 years, and my hair has turned white and I can't find a way. You just flip through books all day and find the 12 talismans. Besides, there are other ways now. The world no longer allows immortality. Do you know that you are such an excellent world? Dao Long looked up at the top of the castle, then lowered his head and looked more intricately at Luo Qing. Finally, he waved weakly and said, "Speak up." Luo Qing was also a bit embarrassed. He also thought of what the complexity in Dao Longan was. His lifespan was already limited, and his own way of growing up exploded one by one, which immediately made this old guy feel lost. He felt that his disciple was looking forward to his death. Otherwise, why haven't we talked about it for 5 years? Speak up immediately when encountering your own problems. That, Master. The talisman was only recently confirmed, and I'm really not sure about it. Now I can only be a dead horse and a living horse doctor. Luo Qing said, scratching her head and asking seriously, "Master, I'll confirm some things with you first." The complexity in Dao Longyan is less, but he didn't speak and just stared at Luo Qing, wanting to hear if his dog could spit out ivory first. The book records that in ancient times, there was not just one human race, but several races coexisted. Is that true? Luo Qing's tone was extremely serious, and it was clear that he was definitely not joking. Yes, there are still traces of vampires, shadows, and some animal races to this day. Dao Long thought for a moment before answering. In any case, having an extra way of immortality would not be a loss. Moreover, the things of the source devil are not so easy to obtain, and no one knows if there will be any accidents. Luo Qing nodded and said seriously, "I have read a wild history book. The Holy Grail of life, once owned by the elf tribe, was lost in the kingdom of humanity. A group of humans, in order to live forever, took this holy relic and hid in the deep mountains." A wisp of essence flashed through Dao Longyan's eyes, and his breathing suddenly became rapid. "Are you telling the truth?" According to records, the cup of life has the effect of transforming decay into magic. Ordinary water flowing into the cup of life can help people regain their youth and nurture themselves for a period of time. This is the fundamental reason why the entire elf tribe can thrive, even though this water has a time limit and needs to be consumed every 3 years. But as long as an individual holds the cup of life, immortality will no longer be the threshold, and his sword dragon will also return to its youthful appearance. It's indeed true, but all I know is that it's in the primitive forest, and it's also isolated by magic, so the difficulty of searching is a bit disappointing, Luo Qing said. Whether it's memories from 5 years ago or those books that do have records of the cup of life, it's true that it's difficult to find. I originally planned to follow Long and his team to find it. But now, everyone is planning to grab the talisman, so there's no need to follow the plot or anything else. I feel a bit disappointed. No problem. The corners of Dao Long's mouth were filled with a smile. He turned his head and waved his hand. Gan, Wen, and Shui, the three of them, pressed the damp evil spirit up. A wave of attraction once again drew Luo Qing's attention away, and he looked at Dao Long with some confusion. A living evil spirit, wielding the power of evil spirits, is seeking death. However, its lifespan will brush down, and that is the physique that only dead people have. The smile on Dao Long's face became more and more obvious. He calmed himself down and said seriously, as long as there is a rough range, within a year, the talisman and the cup of life belong to us and will not make any mistakes. Feeling the strong confidence of Dao Long, some worries in Luo Qing's heart also disappeared. Yes, what are you worried about? With my own changes, let alone the fact that Dao Long may not necessarily lose. Even if I lose, is it difficult to obtain talismans from the 13th district? So Luo Qing smiled and said, come on, the power of evil spirits, I'm looking forward to it. As soon as the words fell, the curse of the sword dragon suddenly sounded. Amidst the sudden screams of the evil spirit, under Luo Qing's black casual suit, a wet demon tattoo was slowly engraved on his pure white back. The body of evil spirits, to control, borrow, and control, the power of evil spirits. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Exploration. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Exploration. 2 days later, in San Francisco, Chinatown. A exceptionally clear water flow rapidly moved along the shadow in the corner of the wall, and the vehicles and pedestrians coming and going on the street did not pay attention to this abnormal situation. As the water flowed through Dad's antique shop, a huge wave of righteousness surged up. On a level invisible to ordinary people, the green light enveloped the entire shop, emitting waves that frightened all dark creatures. The stream of water quickly bypassed the shop and disappeared at the corner without any intention of stopping. Oh, there's an evil spirit haunting us. Do you think we'll meet Dad? The old voice sounded as the water disappeared. An old man in a woolen sweater rushed out of the shop with a dry pufferfish in his hand. He looked around with a serious expression for a while, but after not noticing anything unusual, he turned around with a worried expression and walked back. At this moment, on the corner not far from Dad's antique shop, a 15 or 16-year-old boy with an unusually pale face was lost in thought. Dao Long is currently making a talisman tracker, while Luo Qing is sneaking out to find the 13th district while adapting to his new abilities. The controlled evil spirit is the legendary water ghost that drags people down the water. It is born to control a part of the water flow, so when controlling this evil spirit, it can use the skills of water escape, illusion, and other evil spirits. Just now, seeing the location of Dad's antique shop, Luo Qing wanted to go and see the person who only exists in his memory. The result of strolling around made Luo Qing feel a bit solemn. He remembered that there was no magic to protect his father's antique shop. At that time, his father did not have the awareness of guarding his home. It was only after the appearance of the demon of heaven, Shimu, that there was a sense of righteousness to protect here. For a moment, Luo Qing couldn't confirm the timeline unless his father noticed something unusual in advance, such as knowing his own and his master's movements. Luo Qing couldn't help but look up at the sky at noon. In his memory and some ancient records, the world emphasizes the balance of yin and yang, and the opposition between good and evil. That is to say, both the positive and negative sides are on the same balance. Regardless of which side is heavy, the world consciousness, that is, the black positive and negative energy, will add weights to the other side to maintain balance between both sides. So, the abnormality in Dad's antique shop this time is likely a matter of integrity, and our master should not have come out to cause trouble at this time, Luo Qing pondered as the tattoo on his back emitted a hint of water vapor. With a splash, he turned into a puddle of water and flowed towards the designated spot. No matter how the weights of the good and evil sides change, it doesn't affect Luo Qing's search for the 13th district now. After all, there will always be good things inside the safe 13th district, right? With the rapid sweep of the water, finally, some clues were found at an intersection not far from Chinatown. That is a telephone booth with only 2 trash cans next to it, and the rest are normal, just an impassable alley. But Luo Qing could feel some anger behind the phone booth, which was the perception of evil spirits, able to sense human breath. He thought for a moment, and the water flowed directly into the phone booth, with a hint of steam seeping through the cracks. A deep and bottomless passage was exposed before his eyes. Without hesitation, the water flowed down the wall, descending about 30 meters, and the view suddenly became clear. The electronic sound of DDD echoed in all directions, as black and white people dressed in suits chatted and walked around. Everywhere were black technologies that were not seen in the market, showcasing the 13 districts dedicated to investigating criminal organizations in front of Luo Qing. The water flows freely and swiftly against the wall, leaving no one to doubt a pool of clear water, so Luo Qing's actions have no scruples. Only magic can defeat magic, and this statement is not casual. Most of the time, technology has a natural disadvantage in the face of transcendence, unless it develops to the level of genetics. After wandering all the way, Luo Qing was immediately attracted by the conversation between the two of them when he entered a room again. Sheriff Black, the purpose of the Black Hand organization has been determined and they have gone to Bavaria. They may arrive in the next few days. Bavaria. I see, did Walloon go this time? Not sure yet, but they attach great importance to this operation and there is a high probability that they will go. Okay, keep an eye on your side. I need to take immediate action. Even if we can't catch Walloon, we can't let their plan succeed. Obey me. Before Luo Qing could continue to approach, a bald man with thick eyebrows and big eyes walked out of the room. He held a black machine in his hand and quickly commanded something. I'm Blake. Team A is preparing, and the target is in Bavaria. We can try the capture plan. As he spoke, the bald man in black had already disappeared swiftly into a corner. Luo Qing, who was in a flowing state, did not stay much and returned straight back. He already knew the answer he wanted, and there was no need to continue exploring in the 13th district. After leaving the 13th district and walking out 2 streets, Luo Qing's transformed water flow slowly transformed into a human figure. He continued to glance at the sky thoughtfully, and a sickly smile appeared on his face. This is the first collaboration between Walloon and the Holy Lord. Is this a coincidence? It has been 5 years now. When did he tell Dao Long that the longevity method is not good and that he must wait until now? All of this seems extremely normal when one doesn't know about it. They can't find any information about their physical condition, and they can't learn magic and martial arts. In addition, the lifespan of the Blade Dragon is very limited. In this situation, as long as they don't want the Blade Dragon to die, they will definitely say the 12 spells. However, as long as it is at this moment, it indicates many things, such as other unknown factors also hoping to enter the game at this time. This world is really complex. Thinking about it, the smile on Luo Qing's face unconsciously turned into a standard villainous smile, as if this sickly young man was saying in a pitiful tone. This world is really becoming more and more interesting. Before Luo Qing could retell the words that suddenly appeared in his mind, a phantom of his head that only he could see appeared in mid-air, followed by a roar that shattered his imagination. Luo Qing. Where have you died, you bastard? Hurry up and get back. The smile on Luo Qing's face froze, and she said helplessly to the phantom of her head, Master, I have finally gained some ability. Can't I just come out and take a stroll? Really, now B doesn't even allow it to be installed. Dao Long is really becoming more and more verbose. As his words fell, a louder roar erupted from his head and mouth. Strolling around. I asked you to protect me, and you showed me around. Do you know that making magic items of this level cannot be disturbed? That's how I taught you to guard your home. Immediately, get back. Luo Qing stiffened again and scratched her head awkwardly, cough, I know now. I'll be back soon. Isn't there anything wrong with this? With a murmur, he decisively transformed into water flow and quickly disappeared into this urban area before the outbreak of the Blade Dragon. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Bull Warrior. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Bull Warrior Cliffs, Ancient Castles. Tell me, where did you go? Looking at the gloomy face of Dao Long, Luo Qing's eyes rolled and he changed the topic with a smile. It's just a casual stroll outside. Master, have you made the spell tracker yet? Show me and let me admire your old man's works. Seeing that his disciple was no longer pretending to be pitiful, but instead began to act like a scoundrel, looking like a dead pig not afraid of boiling water, Dao Long's face became increasingly gloomy. Before he could even get angry, Luo Qing's words suppressed his anger. Oh, I forgot to mention it. I found the exact location of a spell and happened to test the accuracy of the tracker. Dao Long frowned and said, Really? Do you know the consequences if you lie to me, kid? I know, if I lie to you, then I will definitely not run next time. Luo Qing continued to nod with a smile, showing great sincerity, and tightly grasped his master's small temper. Dao Long was speechless. He waved his hand and threw something resembling a compass into Luo Qing's arms. Let's go take a look at the specific location, he said. Luo Qing took it and looked at the compass. It was a palm-sized disc with no patterns, only the middle pointer was spinning with a clattering sound, resembling a chaotic magnetic field or losing control. Does this thing have a range? Luo Qing asked with great interest. This pointer can locate the power of the Chinese zodiac, but it can only locate one at a time, and we haven't received any feedback yet, explained Dao Long. He has never seen talismans before. If an instrument could accurately locate them under such circumstances, he would have been born long ago. Will he still care about these talismans? Random, master, you also have unreliable moments, Luo Qing joked. Before Dao Long changed his face, he added, the spell I found is with a professional wrestler named Bull Warrior in Mexico. Dao Long couldn't help but glance at him and wave his hand. Purple smoke filled the air, and in an instant, a sense of shuttle struck. Luo Qing did not resist, and the two disappeared into the castle. Mexico. This is a very interesting country. Boxing, wrestling, bullfighting and other rare events in China appear ordinary here, making it a country that worships power. Today, the strongest new star in the wrestling industry, the Bull Warrior, happens to have a competition, so the crowd around the wrestling arena appears to be particularly high. This time, it must be the Bull Warrior who won again. There is no comparability between the two sides. Isn't that right? These challenges are mostly aimed at attracting attention. Didn't you see that even the Bull Warriors haven't made predictions yet? They've won too much. It's actually quite boring. Infinite crushing. When will we see the Bull Warrior take off his mask? What do you think? Bull Warriors never take off their masks. The sound of discussions around him made Luo Qing feel very interesting. Behind him, Dao Long followed him aimlessly, knowing that he could directly descend and kill the guy wearing the talisman. What else needed to be planned? However, his disciple has been performing well recently. Although he doesn't know the reason, he is still willing to trust Luo Qing to a certain extent. Feeling the gaze of her master, Luo Qing explained, there are too many people. Master, let's listen to me and take action at night. Looking around, Luo Qing lowered his voice and said, you have also read those books. The Holy Lord recovers every 300 years. Although there hasn't been much hype in the first few times, we have to guard against it. What the world wants is balance. If you, Master, were assigned to Black Qi in this era of the end of the Dharma, then at least someone at the same level as you would appear in the positive Qi side. Coupled with the source demon of the Black Qi side's Holy Lord, you can imagine that the reincarnation of the Holy Warrior who sealed the Holy Lord 900 years ago may have appeared in this era. As Luo Qing spoke, he slowed down with Dao Long and looked at the crowd around him, whispering, now we are in the dark. As long as we operate well, we can definitely become fishermen. Dao Long was taken aback, looking at his own disciple in a somewhat complicated way, surprisingly considering so much. There was some relief in his eyes. Looking back on the time when he met him, he was still a fearful little doll. Now he can be on his own, and he has really grown up. Sure, it was very thoughtful. Dao Long praised and patted Luo Qing's shoulder. He was no longer in a hurry, as long as there was no major commotion. He could still afford to wait for half a day. Luo Qing smiled at the corners of his mouth. As long as he could listen to the advice, he was afraid that black energy would cause trouble. If it could affect his mind or something, it would be too scary. That way, he would have to consider the idea of breaking the balance, so to speak. It's okay. Friend, wait a minute. Behind him, a shout came, causing Luo Qing to stop and turn his head. Suddenly, a 12-year-old Mexican-American boy ran up. "What's wrong, little brother?" Luo Qing asked gently, and the nearby Dao Long also stopped, but there was no intention of answering. "My name is Parker, nice to meet you. Are you all here for tourism?" The little boy took a few breaths and looked at Luo Qing, asking. "My name is Luo Qing, what's up?" Luo Qing nodded, his tone still gentle. Apart from his pale complexion, he looked like a big brother next door. "Great, have you ever heard of the Bull Warrior? He is a god of war who has never been defeated. There will be his game this afternoon, so please make sure to go and watch it. He will definitely not disappoint you." Parker looked expectant and handed over a flyer, earnestly promoting his idol. Luo Qing politely took the flyer and smiled, saying, "I'm sorry, Parker. I may not have time this afternoon, so I'll definitely go next time." "Okay, sorry to bother you." Parker's expectations gradually faded on his face, he bowed slightly, then turned around and left, ready to search for the next target to sell. Luo Qing turned around and walked outside with her master. She handed the flyer to Dao Long and whispered, "Look at the area between the eyebrows of this brave warrior's mask. This should be the talisman." Dao Long took it and his eyes became increasingly interested. "Cow, does it represent a talisman of divine power?" "This spell is not very difficult, master can avoid showing up," Luo Qing thought for a moment and added, "We can all avoid showing up. Let Gan Wensui and the others go tonight." Without even thinking, Dao Long nodded directly. Dark warriors like Gan, Wen, and Chui would not die, so they were not afraid of their failure. Hiding in the dark was indeed more in line with their interests. At least we have to wait for the Holy Lord or the righteous side to appear first, as the advantage of first mover is sometimes very important. So this time, we're here for tourism, master. Give me some money to spend and let me experience the feeling of being a wealthy second generation, Luo Qing said, gradually getting excited. Dao Long paused silently and said, "Do I have that kind of thing? Money, it's just waste paper. What does Dao Long want and can't he grab it? What money do you need?" Luo Qing took out a card from his pocket and said with a smile, "When the Taoist gave you something, I took $1 million from him in your name, and now it can be considered that you gave it. Dao Long, follow you." End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Encirclement. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Encirclement. Luo Qing began to experience the joy brought by money in a rare way. Whether in his previous life or this life, this consumption method that doesn't care about the amount stored in his account is like a young lady getting into a sedan chair once. Looking at the scenery of one of the few 5-star hotels in Mexico, shaking a famous wine that I had only heard of on TV before, taking a light sip, what a corrupt life. A bottle of wine costs over 10,000 yuan, Luo Qing exclaimed with a feeling of enjoyment. The knife dragon, dressed in a black-purple wizard robe but lying on a massage chair, glanced at him and said calmly, "Once you get used to it, you will lose your qualification to become a wizard." Luo Qing was indifferent and said, "I'm just a living dead person. It's about becoming a witch, that's it." Just live comfortably. Dao Long closed his eyes and didn't say much. Everyone had their own aspirations, and he wouldn't object to any life his disciples wanted. After all, the threshold for eternal life was right in front of him. He no longer needs transmission or anything else, he will find the true essence of a wizard. Luo Qing swayed his red wine glass and leisurely leaned against the balcony to admire the scenery below, his eyes momentarily becoming somewhat blurred. Few people have ever relaxed so much. The bustling crowds, either hurriedly or leisurely walking from below, only a short distance away, have become a microcosm of modern cities. Everyone is walking on their own path, showcasing the diversity of the world. This feeling of looking down seems particularly mesmerizing, even though it is just an 8-story building. After finishing half of the glass of red wine in his hand, Luo Qing seemed to be slightly tipsy, and his originally pale face revealed a beautiful blush. He looked up at the increasingly brilliant dusk in the sky, the endless golden and red colors filling his field of vision, capturing the grandeur of nature in people's eyes. Luo Qing stretched lazily and casually put down his wine glass. "Master, tell them to come out. It's almost time." The crowd gathered in the distance had a tendency to disperse at some point. They all came for the undefeated god of war when his performance came to an end. A highly purposeful group of people naturally seek new goals for themselves. Dao Long opened his eyes and calmly called out, "Gone, one, Chui, Shan." The purple smoke flashed away, taking away some of the air, but it brought in 4 oppressive dark warriors. Luo Qing picked up the red wine next to him and poured it into the glass, his tone slightly lazy. "You 4 follow Xiao Shui, and then you just listen to the command." 4 dark warriors turned their heads to look at the blade dragon, but without receiving any opposition orders, they stood silently in place, waiting quietly. Luo Qing picked up the red wine glass, and the water vapor flickered slightly on his body. A mischievous spirit, dressed in white and soaked all over, appeared beside him out of place. It was obvious that Xiao Shui was referring to it. Evil spirits are not afraid of the sun, especially the ones he controls. At most, they just feel some discomfort. So, when the dusk light shone on the damp figure, there was no other reaction except for making the ticking sound of water faster. "Let's go." The slightly tipsy boy glanced out the window and lay on a beach chair, speaking faintly. As soon as the words fell, the 5 figures, 1 white, 4 black, almost disappeared at the same time. He drank all the wine in his glass and slowly closed his eyes. Evil spirits have no intelligence and can only understand short commands, requiring them to control remotely. Wow, the game just now was really exciting. You defeated the challenger in one go. It's really cool. Hurry up, here's today's signature. Under the sunset, the golden afterglow illuminated the little boy's admiring gaze, leaving hopeful words behind the back door of this wrestling arena. In front of him was a tall figure about 1.9 meters tall, with his muscles bulging against his black suit, indicating his strength at a glance. On the forehead with a red headband, there is an octagonal talisman with cow inscriptions. Obviously, this is the bull warrior who has just participated in the competition. He reluctantly took the signature book from the little boy's hand, with pages full of the same person's signature. He flipped the pages to the latest page and signed his own name. The people around me looked at this scene somewhat taken aback, but most of their eyes were kind. Children's expectations are always the most beautiful and worthy of blessings, aren't they? The bull warrior handed the signature book to the boy and said, "You're here again, Parker. It's better to learn at this age. No, you are my idol. I need a signature for every game you play. My dream is to become an unbeaten war god like you when I grow up." Parker raised his face and said seriously. The gesture of tightly holding the notebook in his arms showed his determination. For a moment, the bull warrior didn't know what to say. He reluctantly touched Parker's head and encouraged, "I believe you are a qualified wrestler, but wrestlers also need to have culture. This is the foundation of modern life." Parker's face was a bit dissatisfied. Just as he was about to say something, the bull warrior continued, "Go back quickly, Parker. I can teach you wrestling knowledge after vacation, but I'll still go to school soon. How about that?" Parker's eyes lit up, and he nodded decisively to answer, "That's settled. You must teach me next time." No one can confirm the promise of the bull warrior, just like no one can take off the bull warrior's mask, the bull warrior said, touching his head again and turning towards home. Looking at the tall figure imprinted on the sunset, Parker smiled and waved his hand, shouting loudly, "Then I'll come back in a month. Don't forget your promise to me." The ox soldier waved his hand and turned into the alley between the shops. Just as he stepped out of sight, his gaze no longer showed the warmth and helplessness he had seen before, but instead revealed a strong sense of unease, and his footsteps quickened a lot. Although he didn't know where the unease came from, he instinctively distanced himself from the crowd. Because if even a professional wrestler like him cannot solve a problem, those ordinary people participating will definitely cause even greater unrest, and I hope all of this is just an illusion. The thought of prayer had just emerged, and the temperature around suddenly dropped to freezing point. The cement walls of the alley suddenly became damp for some reason, and the air seemed to be damp, causing extreme discomfort. The footsteps of the bull warrior gradually came to a stop. He looked at the figure that appeared out of thin air in front of him with a serious expression. He was 2 meters tall, with a ponytail, dark brown skin, and a face covered in blue patterns, without any eye whites. The extreme sense of oppression instantly descended, causing the heart of the bull warrior to sink continuously. Duh, duh, duh. 3 light landing sounds echoed behind him, causing his sinking heart to plummet to the bottom. This small alley seemed to have become his last resort. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Combat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Combat. What are you people? The bull warrior asked solemnly. He bent slightly, spread his hands apart, and stared intently at the tall figure in front of him, ready for battle. The tall figure in front of me didn't respond, and there was no extra sound behind me except for the slight landing. All of this seemed to be his illusion, but the increasingly cold and humid air around him was filled with a murderous intent that made him uneasy. Buzzing, the subtle sound of the air being continuously cut was extremely prominent in the quiet air, and the bull warrior didn't even think about it. He bent his knees and kicked, causing the earth to crack instantly. The powerful reaction force pushed his body high into the air, and an incredibly sharp boomerang flew diagonally upwards against his feet. Such a big move touched everyone's nerves, and the battle was imminent. Da-da-da-da. The drizzling rain started at the right moment, even though it only existed in this narrow alley and looked very eerie. Dong dong. 2 footsteps sounded, and the bull warrior suddenly looked up. A dark warrior who was faster than him had already climbed over him, and a large hammer emitting powerful dark power hit him without leaving any hand. Unable to borrow force in mid-air, but the force that caused the ground to crack just now is the best way to crack it. With confidence flashing in his eyes, the bull warrior punched the hammer in the air. Boom! The fist met the hammer, and the spell on the forehead of the bull warrior flickered with light. The scene of blood and flesh blur did not appear, and the huge hammer shattered with a loud bang. The dark warrior who jumped in mid-air flew straight to higher altitudes. Buzzing, the boomerang that flew diagonally upwards just now spun back at high speed, cutting through large walls along the way and fiercely cutting towards the rapidly descending bull warrior amidst screams. The bull warrior's eyes flickered, and he kicked towards the nearby wall with a loud bang, creating a large hole in the wall. And his body crashed into the other side of the wall, with higher screams coming from inside the house, and the fear that filled him couldn't help but feel emotional. Buzzing, one from Gan, and Chui reached out and caught the boomerang. He exchanged a glance with Gan and was about to chase, but his body suddenly froze and looked to the other side. The mountain, who did not participate in the previous confrontation, has now turned its gaze to the cut wall, where frightened men and women are imprinted in the eyes. Seemingly understanding the meaning behind them, the mountain intensified its steps and walked step by step towards those people. Dong 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 dong, the sound of a heavy hammer hitting the ground was filled with a sense of oppression, even causing the increasingly unstable wall to shake slightly. Ah 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 ah, don't come over, don't kill me, don't ah ah ah. A frightened roar suddenly sounded, making the drizzling rain seem to have increased slightly. Chui, who returned to the team, summoned a sledgehammer again and struck the wall fiercely, causing even greater sounds of fear. Their purpose has become clear. This is a Yang scheme, it depends on whether the strong escaped mouse has taken the call. Behind him, passing through the residential building, the bull warrior who was preparing to leave stopped in his tracks. A struggling expression appeared in his eyes, and reason told him that these people were targeting him, and he would never be able to win back. But he can't just watch innocent people die for him. With a grit of his teeth, the bull warrior turned around and ran quickly. His eyes were bloodshot, the talisman on his forehead flashed wildly, and the earth beneath his feet trembled and cracked. The sound of distant footsteps stopped, but the blood red in the eyes of the bull warrior became more and more obvious. Looking back at the location in his memory, he didn't hesitate to directly smash a wall, and in the midst of the rampant brick and stone dust, he punched out. Boom! His fist turned layers of rain into dust, and he punched the mountain that posed the greatest threat to him. In an instant, the mountain, emitting a strong sense of oppression, shattered its fists inch by inch, and its entire body flew backwards, crashing heavily against the shattered wall. Its body exploded into blue smoke and disappeared. The blood-red-eyed bull warrior suddenly turned around and looked at the remaining 3 dark warriors in the growing rain curtain. The thunderous rain curtain wetted everything on him, and the near-zero temperature could not extinguish his anger at this moment. Gan, Wen, and Chui looked at each other, shrugged their shoulders, and their figures gradually turned into smoke, disappearing into thin air. The bull warrior paused for a moment, not yet understanding the current situation. He immediately felt an anomaly, the rain around him. Is it too concentrated? Just as he was about to stay away from this eerie rain, a white shadow flashed by, and he suddenly felt a light on his face, something moving away from his cheeks. He instinctively reached out to touch his face, and the mask he had promised never to take off was gone. The surrounding rainstorm that was about to take shape also stopped at this moment, and the rainwater gathered on the ground also dissipated at this moment and flowed into the sewer. The bull warrior looked around in confusion. The sunset on the horizon had disappeared at some point, and a bright moon shone on his long-lost face, illuminating the confusion in his eyes. What's going on here? Hotels. On the 8th floor balcony, Luo Qing looked at the bright moon slightly tipsy, playing with the bull talisman in his hand, and threw it to his master. His tone was somewhat boring, saying, "Look, it is indeed divine power. It seems that the seal can be stimulated by emotions, allowing the holder to exert greater power." Dao Long's gaze was burning as he looked at the talisman. He glanced at Luo Qing without any nonsense. Purple smoke filled the room, and the distance between spaces began to fade away. Everything in front of him began to blur. When the perspective in front of him was clear, the familiar castle was already in sight. Luo Qing, who was about to go get the wine, froze and looked around in silence. "Master, that bottle of wine costs over 100,000 yuan, isn't there such a spendthrift? At least bring it with you," he said. "Stop talking nonsense, give me the tracker." Dao Long's tone was urgent, and he couldn't wait to reach out. Luo Qing helplessly took out his pocket and handed the palm-sized compass to Dao Long. Seeing him take it and walk directly to the magic experiment room, Luo Qing shouted, "Master, can you find that Taoist to take it when you run out of money?" Dao Long ignored him and quickly walked into the magic room, knocking the door shut with a bang. Luo Qing pouted. Wizards and the like are a group of technical experts who immediately shut down when encountering any problems. But money is indeed a good thing. Even Dao Long has gone offline. Do you also need to find 2 wealthy people to provide for your daily life? Luo Qing pondered and walked outside the castle, looking up at the beautiful night. A plane happened to fly over the sky, bringing some noise while also attracting all his attention. With slightly tipsy eyes squinting, the faint water vapor around him dissipated the drunkenness. His pupils gradually disappeared, and the vision of the evil spirit was activated, revealing a world that ordinary people cannot see. The plane surrounded by righteous and black air, is she here? Whispering softly in the night sky, as the plane rapidly moved away, Luo Qing's eyes returned to normal and turned to shout at the castle. Master, I'm out now. Please contact me when you're done. Get lost. Okay. The water vapor flickered, and there was no one outside the castle. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. First Meeting. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 First Meeting. Hello Taoist, you know many wealthy people, don't you? In the starry night, Luo Qing floated like a ghost, holding a button press in his hand, communicating with someone. I need evil spirits, a large number of evil spirits. Can you help me find them? As for the reward formation, although I don't know much about it, it's still easy to give you a few ancient books. Well, that's great. You can also call me after you confirm the location. Okay, that's settled then. The last thing is, put 1 million more in that card. As for the books, I'll give them to you when the first evil spirit arrives. Hanging up the phone, Luo Qing felt a sense of contentment in her eyes. It's really nice to have a supportive day. Now, let's go take a look at that girl. It seems that many things have been laid out on her. Friendship, hostility, or indifference. It is difficult to make a decision, and there is a high possibility that the involvement of gods and demons will not lead to a good outcome. Even this ordinary girl. Maybe Luo Qing decided that no matter what, it would always be right to go and have a look. Airport. The planes that descend at night always make these places more lively. People of different skin colors look around, whether they are returning from afar or traveling to other places, and their expressions are always somewhat different in everyone's eyes. Luo Qing, dressed in black casual clothes, chewed on bubble gum and leaned against the wall in the corner, silently observing everything. To be honest, occasionally seeing those people with families, his seemingly indifferent heart will always have some irregular beats. Is it envy? Luo Qing himself was a bit uncertain. He was always alone, and his strange thoughts seemed to have never stopped. A young girl pulling a suitcase in the distance caught Luo Qing's attention. She wore an orange hoodie, blue pants, and 2 strands of bangs fluttering. In between, she could see a pair of white headphones and a look of a little adult. Luo Qing has some nostalgia in her eyes, the goddess of childhood. However, she has a somewhat criminal appearance and refuses to accept the aesthetic of childhood from me. Luo Qing was lost in thought for a while, then spat out her gum and walked forward. Hi, beautiful lady. My name is Luo Qing, may I have the privilege of getting to know you? Luo Qing still planned to get to know her. When he saw her for the first time, he denied the idea of friendship. Don't misunderstand, the perception of evil spirits is very sensitive. Simply staying in a space, Luo Qing felt a slight tingling sensation behind the tattoo. This is quite outrageous. Evil spirits, who lack intelligence, are actually in fear. This has to alert Luo Qing, so it's better to leave a good impression. As a summoning type, playing fake light games is very suitable. Xiaoyu paused, took off one earphone, and looked at the young man who suddenly appeared in front of her, tilting his head. Are you planning to soak me? Ah, Luo Qing was dumbfounded. Are these children so unrestrained now? Or is it that my otaku can't keep up with the times? Seeing Luo Qing stunned, Xiaoyu's gaze gradually changed. She couldn't help but take a step back and said cautiously, no matter which country's law is, a 12-year-old girl should start at least 10 years ago. Are you a pervert? Luo Qing. The whole person instantly petrified. Are you serious about taking a step back? Is it just a casual conversation that started in 10 years? Something's wrong, this little jade is not right. Did I get it right? Sure enough, there are many perverts abroad, Xiaoyu muttered in Chinese, then gave Luo Qing a look at the perverts, decisively dragging the small suitcase around him and walking towards the distance. She had to go to the hotel she had booked, so she didn't have time to spend with the perverts. At the same time, she praised her wit in her heart. In a petrified state, Luo Qing woke up when the girl crossed over him. He turned around speechlessly and said in Chinese, "It's not a good habit to speak ill of others." The girl paused in her footsteps and turned her head in confusion. Chinese people. Luo Qing shrugged helplessly and said, "Otherwise, what would I be meddling in? Isn't it because I want my fellow townspeople to shed tears when I see them?" The girl's vigilance suddenly increased in her eyes. "My friend once said that some compatriots who don't do well in foreign countries like to deceive other compatriots and then go to the waste, or not get anesthetized. You're not that kind of person, are you?" Luo Qing. Did the popularity of Gayz start in 0 years ago? Luo Qing was completely helpless, and at the same time, he gave up the plan of becoming friends and playing two-faced. He said nonchalantly, "It's okay, having a sense of vigilance is a good thing. I wish you a pleasant journey." After speaking, Luo Qing turned around and walked away. Xiaoyu's vigilance in her eyes decreased slightly. As she watched Luo Qing leave, she thought about her performance just now, and a rare hint of embarrassment appeared on her face. "It seems like I'm a bit too cautious, it's a bit hurtful. What if someone else is really just kind-hearted? But Jie Yaozi is really in pain and hasn't received anesthesia yet." With these thoughts in mind, the girl's expression became somewhat conflicted. Finally, she shouted to Luo Qing's back, "My name is Chen Xiaoyu. If there is a chance, I will treat you to dinner next time." After shouting, Xiaoyu felt a little better in her heart. She put on her earphones again and walked towards the hotel by the roadside. After meeting Uncle Long, if she encounters him again, she should apologize well. And Luo Qing, who had already walked to the distance, paused slightly and waved his hand. A hint of smile appeared on his face. "Let's just go with fate. This impolite little girl is not particularly annoying. It's just a mischievous child, and it's normal to have this kind of vigilance without adults around." Thinking about it, Luo Qing's footsteps also became lighter. This time, he didn't just come to see the little girl, although this was a big part of the reason. But now, the depth of the water in America is very deep, and at this time, various layouts and key figures have begun to emerge, so there will be some busy schedules ahead. Firstly, there are talismans. There is no difference between taking one and taking countless of these things. The whereabouts of many talismans are not clear, and Luo Qing cannot remember them. But there was one that left a deep impression on him, right on a large turtle shell in an aquarium in San Francisco. Rabbit talisman, with this thing, there can be a significant improvement in both life preservation and travel. So tonight's task is to explore the aquarium, and there aren't many aquariums in San Francisco either. They only look like 2 or 3 and should be explored soon. Luo Qing looked around and saw that no one was paying attention. His figure instantly became illusory, and he disappeared into the water flow. Arriving at the nearest aquarium, Luo Qing invaded without even thinking about it. No. The second one. Dolphins are very cute, and turtles also have them, but there are still no charms. The third one. Luo Qing's mood gradually declined. After coming out of the last aquarium, Luo Qing sat on the steps by the roadside, looking at the night with some doubts about life. I won't make a mistake about this. It's just an aquarium and a big turtle, why not? Has that turtle not been discovered yet? Luo Qing has a big head. How could Dao Long find these charms every day? While thinking about it, the phone in my pocket began to vibrate with a buzzing sound. Luo Qing took out a look and answered. Gradually, his expression became interested and he said, "See you in the black market. It's coming soon. There's news from the evil spirits. Add another chapter, everyone give some comments or something." Wow, it's just that. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Forbidden Areas. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Forbidden Areas. Senior, the bad news this time is somewhat special, so I called you over. In a luxurious office, the Taoist wearing a yellow Taoist robe cautiously said to Luo Qing sitting in the main seat. He was actually somewhat surprised. The young man was still an ordinary person last time he met, but this time he appeared out of thin air, and there was a certain aura on his body that made him shudder. For a moment, his attitude became even more humble. Luo Qing's interest grew even greater. What kind of special method? It's special, the more special it is, the more excited it is. What evil spirits fear the most is not special anymore. The Taoist pondered for a moment, feeling a bit embarrassed. In the end, he took out a laptop and quickly operated it in front of Luo Qing. Finally, he opened a folder called the Forbidden Area. At the same time, he also spoke up and explained, I felt familiar with your instructions just now. In the end, I found some traces of evil spirits in the information circulating among this wizard. You'd better read it yourself. My suggestion is to let your master take action. Luo Qing's eyes lit up and he couldn't wait to take the computer to watch. Gradually, Luo Qing's expression changed from excited to stunned. Good guy, the Forbidden Area is truly a forbidden area. It is a legacy of ancient killing formations, sealed demons, evil spirits that have once slaughtered cities, turbulent flow in different spaces, and the legacy of divine warfare power. Are these things really something that could have existed during the end of the legal era? Moreover, there is actually more than one sealed evil spirit, and there are also some descriptions of their deeds, which is also magical. For example, this one. Forbidden Area. Blood-clothed evil spirit. Address. Wind Village, Los Angeles. The maximum area has been locked down, please do not approach. Map. Description. The sealing area of the blood clothes of the evil spirit king, but due to the power of the evil spirit and the instability of the sealing, the breath leaks out. As it approaches, the clothes gradually turn bright red. When the contaminated area of the clothes reaches 30%, their vitality will be extracted. History. The evil spirit king who slaughtered a city 1,000 years ago was later sealed by the mage Bonendinger. I am really a good guy. Sure enough, what ordinary people can always know is what others want them to know. For example, this is something that Luo Qing is extremely familiar with. Forbidden Area. Mirror God. Address. Fengdu Ancient Temple, not blocked. Map. Description. For evil spirit kings who were once deified. The seal here is extremely stable and guarded by the descendants of mages, so there is no risk of escape. However, those with extremely keen inspiration can hear the temptation of the mirror god and are not recommended to go. History. 2,000 years ago, he was deified due to fear. However, due to the large number of believers, his incarnation of fear was unable to be killed. Unable to be killed. TSK, I really dare to record it like this. Apart from God and Source Devil, what else is immortal? Send me this information. By the way, do you know the things that restrict evil spirits? Luo Qing said, suddenly thinking of something and turning his gaze to the Taoist. The evil spirits in this world are not ghosts. Peachwood swords and black dog blood are not effective, and even sunlight is fearless. In this era where inheritance is cut off, it is really possible that they do not know how to deal with evil spirits. Don't worry, senior. I still know this, and apprentices have magic. The Taoist carefully glanced at Luo Qing and answered with a lowered head. Luo Qing nodded. Indeed, the power of faith is not a secret, it's just that faith is poisonous. Apart from being used to deal with special beings like evil spirits, it has no other function. Otherwise, how could those mirror gods be placed in the temple? Isn't it for the long-term weakening of their power? That's good, the more evil spirits there are, the better. Whether it's this conscious evil spirit king or not, I'm lacking. Luo Qing said, glanced at the Taoist and carefully considered his wording. I am different from my master. As long as you do your job well, some more precious inheritance knowledge cannot be given to you. Watching the Taoist tremble and show some excitement, Luo Qing said calmly, and helping me with things also represents my protection. The Taoist raised his head fiercely, his eyes filled with disbelief and surprise. Is it so easy to maintain a black market? And he is not yet at the level of a mage, just a high-level apprentice. Huge returns always come with huge risks, otherwise there is no need to send money to Dao Long for comfort. But Luo Qing's words also bound Dao Long. As long as his disciple spoke up, it would definitely be much better than his relationship. After all, those who want to give money to Dao Long are really like a bunch of people queuing up in the extraordinary world. There's no way, the difference is too big. Why not? Luo Qing frowned. The Taoist regained his senses, his body trembled, and he repeatedly said, No, 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 it's my blessing to be able to serve the senior. Of course I am willing to. Okay, I'll take this computer with me. You can contact me when you find the evil spirit. Luo Qing picked up his notebook, stood up, and walked out. I'll see you off, the Taoist quickly said, taking out the car key and eagerly opening the door to guide the way ahead. Without hearing a reply, the Taoist turned around and his familiar figure had disappeared. He took a long breath and sat back in the boss's chair, showing a faint smile. It's great to have a backup right away. Cliffs, ancient castles. Luo Qing carefully studied the evil spirits in the forbidden area and found some commonalities. Firstly, they were all very powerful, and secondly, they were all conscious evil spirits with the same physique as him. This makes it a bit difficult for Luo Qing. Power is something he covets, but consciousness he thought of the mirror god who would appear in the plot. It was truly terrifying to turn human fear into reality, while the rest, although slightly lacking, were equally terrifying overall. Luo Qing turned off his notebook and leaned against the backrest of his seat, his eyes lost in thought. Bang! At this moment, there was a sudden explosion in the laboratory, which caught Luo Qing's attention and also disrupted his thoughts. Mad, what are you thinking about yourself? What is clearly my proudest thing? We have people who can support us. Master, what's wrong with you? You're not injured, are you? Let me be healthy, Luo Qing ran over with a thud. Get lost. Okay. After a roar, Luo Qing ran back and sat down with a thud. Is Dao Long a bit unreliable? He doesn't ask anything and can't afford to be a technical expert. Not long after, the door to the magic room opened with a creaking sound. Luo Qing was taken aback, turned his head to look, and suddenly saw Dao Long walking out with a tracker and a gloomy expression on his face. Failed. Luo Qing was a bit cautious and prepared to be scolded. Dao Long glanced at him and said angrily, Do you have nothing to do? Hee, master, come on, take a look at this. Luo Qing smiled and patted the seat next to her, then turned on the computer on the screen. Dao Long continued to give Luo Qing a knife, but looking at this playful and smiling person, he still sat over in anger. You'd better have something to do. End of this chapter.